kindergarten teachers, this is for you to note that this lesson is really intended for when you come back to the buildings with your students, either hybrid, so that you can send home watercolors for them to do this at home, or you have them do this in class, because we know not everyone has watercolors at home right now. So that's really the intent of doing this particular project. The supplies you'll need is a piece of heavier cardstock or watercolor paper if you have it, a pencil, something to trace a circle, a good sized circle with, and some watercolors. So to start with, we're going to trace our circle. And you're going to make about 3 or 4, and you're going to make sure these are called the socially distanced bubbles that we're making, and so we want them to be separated. You don't want them to be touching, just like you're going to have to do in class. When you go back in person, you're going to have to stay apart, or if you go to the grocery store, you stay apart from people. And so I've put 4 on here. I could fit 4 on my paper. And I am also going to do a few that kind of go off the page. And so it's just showing that. I'm going to do one over here. That might be good. All right, so that's the first step, is tracing our circles. Okay, the next part is to make these actually look like bubbles. When you see bubbles, when you see them drawn, there's a little part, I'm going to draw one for you as an example. There's a little bit of lighter where the light is reflected on the bubble. And so we're going to draw that. I'm going to show you how to do that again, but you're going to draw a little bit of a light reflection spot on each bubble. So on this one down here, you're just going to draw, and I'm going to do them kind of in the same section of the circle each time. And so I'm going to draw just a curved line, and then I'm going to draw a line that curves in from the side, and then another line that curves, kind of matches this, an arc line, and then I'm going to connect those both. This one went a little too long. Okay. So let's do that again in this one. You're going to draw a curved line that kind of matches the curve in your bubble. You're going to do another one that's a little bit shorter below it, and then you're just going to connect those. You don't want it to look like a rectangle. And then here's another one here. So a curved line, and they go in kind of inward. And so this bubble probably wouldn't be showing, but this one would be. So I'm going to show this. These are just kind of like light reflections. And that's all we're going to do for our drawing. So the next step will be our watercolor painting. So here's an example of what we're going to be doing. And you can make your watercolor bubbles any color you like. I think these are more typical colors of what I've seen in bubbles before, but soap bubbles, I guess. So the first thing you're going to do is we're going to be doing watercoloring where you don't touch the paint first, you touch the water first. So you're going to get your brush really wet. And I'm going to show you this because I want you to see how I do this. I'm going to start with this bubble right here. And I am going to put water down on everything except my, my highlight there. I don't want that to get wet if I can keep it away. So you can see, it might be hard to see mine, it shows up shiny, but I'm gonna keep dipping my brush in water because I want it to be really wet. And I'm gonna go right around, I'm trying to stay in the line. And whenever it feels like it's getting dry, let me go over again. So we're gonna do one bubble at a time because we don't want it to dry out. So I'm gonna dip, before I touch the color, I'm gonna go one more time, get my brush really, really wet. I don't want to dry, I don't want to brush it off. I want that water. So I'm gonna dip it in my blue paint just a little bit. Mine is already wet, so if yours isn't wet, get some water in there and dip it in so it's not a dry paint. Okay, so I'm going to show you that again. Okay, so now I got lots of water on my brush. I'm going to just dip it in the paint a little bit, and then I'm going to just add color, and watch what happens. It's going to spread automatically. So I'm going to paint all the way around the edge of this bubble. And I'm going to paint that color along this highlight up here. And that's it. That's where I want the color to be. Now before I do any more, I'm going to get my paintbrush really wet again. No more color, that's all the color we're going to do, just one little tap. And I can pull some of that color across the rest of the bubble. Look at that, it's kind of cool looking. And that's all we want, because we want darker color and then we want lighter color when that bubble dries. Okay, so we're going to do that again. And don't worry if you've got color on in your water, it won't make too much of a difference. So I'm going to get my paintbrush really wet again, and I'm going to paint my water across, and I'm going to try to avoid that highlight. It's really where the light is reflected, and I need more water. So this is a watercoloring technique that's pretty fun to start getting your paint area really wet and then adding color. Almost gives it a tie-dye look. Okay, so now one more time before I dip in the paint, or in the paint, I'm going to get it really wet. And this time I'm going to do purple. So I'm just going to dip it a little bit in the purple, and I want you to just drop that color around the edge of your bubble. Ooh, this one looks really cool. And this one, you know how bubbles were they almost are see-through, so I actually really like that that's all the color that's going to show on my bubble. I might leave it there. You can add more, keep painting a little bit more with it or drawing it across the center, but I want the center to be white, so that's all I'm going to do on that one. Okay, let's do another one. And you can always pause the video if you need more time to do your next bubble. All right, so I'm gonna get this really wet again, and we're just gonna keep repeating that until all your bubbles are done. And then you're gonna want to let this dry really well. You're not gonna want to pick up your paper if you can help it, because this water will it'll probably drip across your page if you pick it up. So just let it dry. Okay, so I got that really wet. You can almost see it's almost got some blue in there from my water, and maybe I just want to leave it like that. But this one I think I'm going to add just a little bit of red because I want it to look maybe pink. I'm going to start down here. Ooh, that's a lot of red. I don't think I'm going to get pink out of that, but that's okay. Look at that, that's kind of cool. And see where it's darker where I first touched the paper, and I want to leave it like that. So I'm not going to add any more paint. I just added a little bit. And in the center, you can either paint across that and drag some color in there, or leave it. Sometimes your brush lands on there. Okay, so those are some examples, and you can just keep painting the last of your bubbles, but that's a really fun technique to make it look more iridescent, is a color where it looks see-through and shiny like bubbles. Have fun.